Hi guys, welcome to Hairdryer Treatment. Sophie's Roundup is back. As you all know, this is my weekly show where I'm talking about the weekend's football, the biggest topics, and of course giving my predictions for the next weekend's football as well. I hope you're all doing really well. Obviously, on a personal note, for me, I was at Old Trafford at the weekend. Not a good time for United fans, but I will get into that discussion in a minute. And as I always say, this show is not for solely United fans, it's for football fans. I go through every single fixture, every single result, and every single big talking point. So it's not purely for United fans. Hello, Mr. E in the chat. Hello, Sully. Hello, Michael. I hope you're all doing very, very well. Henry, I'm very well, thank you. Hope you're good as well. Johnny says, nice kit. Yeah, repping the pink kit today. A lot of people didn't like it, but I actually was a fan, even though it didn't seem to be a good omen for us, definitely. It299 says, I do not think James is diving. I'll discuss that in a minute as well. But the first game I'm going to get into is obviously the Friday night kickoff, Aston Villa against Everton. In my predictions, I'm pretty sure that I said I were going to get something. I thought they showed enough against Spurs to prove that they can definitely compete in the Premier League. I think that goals in the team, and against Everton, I thought they played fantastically well. And I want to touch on Wesley, the centre forward. I thought he absolutely bullied Spurs centre backs. Obviously, he got a goal as well, but I think he was strong. His link-up play was fantastic. And I've already said I'm terrified to imagine him competing with Lindelof because I think he will absolutely bully him. He seems an absolute tank going forwards. And feel free to join in if you watch the game as well. But I thought Wesley for Aston Villa was very impressive, and like I say, they definitely they deserve the win against Everton. Everton, I think, would look pretty poor considering they've got a lot of new signings. I think getting goals this season is going to be difficult. Like I say, Villa for me, definitely deserved it. Good to get the win at Villa Park as well. Hopefully they can get a bit of form under their belt as well now and start getting more points. Let's see what few you guys are talking about. Jack is obviously a Palace fan. I bet he cannot wait for me to talk about that game. Don't worry, Jack, I will not avoid it. I'll talk about it. Alex says Aston Villa were good on Friday. The better team won, and I thought that Tyrone Mings was impressive at centre back. Tyrone Mings, I think he was a very good signing for Aston Villa. I thought last season in the Championship, he was fantastic for them. He's definitely a leader at the back. The Villa fans love him. You can tell he loves being at Villa. And like you said, I was a bit nervous thinking how was he going to fare in the Premier League. Obviously, he was at Bournemouth beforehand, and he was only really known for stamping on Zlatan's head. But yeah, I must agree. I think he's looked very impressive. He's definitely a leader at the back for Villa, and yeah, he did have a very, very good game. And I know he was a date in the warm up as well. He twinged his groin, I believe, so he did really well. IQ Insane says we are the ones that look poor, so I think poor is a compliment to us right now, definitely. And like I say, I'll talk about United in a minute. LUIZ says Lukaku scored on his debut. He did score a tap-in and he was celebrating it like he celebrated like he just scored an absolute worldie. I've also saw some compilations of some bad first touches from him. Look, I already said that Lukaku will score goals in Italy, definitely. He is a goal scorer. He'll need a lot of chances before he obviously converts them. And like I say, his first touch, we all know his link-up play is simply not good enough. But he'll definitely bag goals because he is a goal scorer. So I'm not even surprised at the fact that he scored. But yeah, Lukaku did score. I think he's talking a bit too much lately. He just needs to focus on his football. Forget about United and focus on his future. As I say, it's Wagwan. Hello, I hope you're alright, Ross. I hope you're doing good. Jack, you did tell me that Palace were going to come and get us. You did, and I didn't think it was going to happen. But the team that I was really praising last week, Norwich, obviously they were playing against Chelsea this weekend. Pukki up front, again, he's bagged. I think he's absolutely, honest to God, I think he's a quality forward. His movement is so clever. He can obviously finish as well. I said against Liverpool, he obviously got one goal, but he could have had more. His movement was really clever. And he scored again against Chelsea. Fantastic. And for me, Norwich were unlucky in that game. Chelsea obviously came out with a win. And I want to say a big congratulations to Tammy Abraham as well. Obviously, he had a lot of racist abuse after the missing a penalty. So I was happy for him to come back and bounce back and get some goals. And again, I already said about Mason Mount. I thought he looked bright against United. Fair play for Lampard for sticking with him. He also bagged a goal. And I think he looks like a baller. I think he looks fantastic. So, yeah, like I say, Norwich though, I'm sticking with it. I think they're going to be a bit of a surprise package. I think going forward to look fantastic this season. Pukki will definitely get them goals. I need to keep hold of him because I think there'll be some big clubs looking out for him. United could do with a Pukki in their team at the minute, definitely. Hazard, I agree. Ross, I completely agree with your opinion on Lukaku. He's talking too much at the minute and he is definitely seeming to be a bit of a clown. But I did predict he was going to get goals in Italy and he is doing so. Paul says Abraham is better than Rashford. What do you reckon, Sophie? I think the thing Abraham, he was unlucky not to score against us. You obviously hit the post. I need to see more of him in the Premier League before I can make that judgment, because Rashford, we all know he produces moments of quality, but then he has games like he did at the weekend where he's very, very poor. I think people are far too quiet on Rashford's form. I think he's very up and down, and we don't have any consistency with him. I'm not saying that because he missed a penalty, because for me there was far too much pressure on him to take that penalty after obviously the week's events and the comments that were made in the press and stuff. So it was written he was going to miss that penalty because there was so much pressure. I would stick him on penalties still, but I do agree that his all-around game, Rashford does need to improve. And like I said, consistency of performance. We keep having the odd moments where he looks fantastic, but it's just not good enough. And his decision-making, he definitely needs to come off free kicks. At one point, Maguire even stood over a free kick because he was that frustrated with Rashford taking them. So he definitely needs to come off the free kicks, and his decision-making needs to improve. Tammy Abraham, like I say, in the Championship, he did look very good last season. He's had a good start this season, definitely. Yes, he missed a penalty, but I think he looked sharp. And that'll be a comparison that I'll make in a few weeks' time when I've seen more of Tammy in the Premier League. But so far, I have been very impressed with him, and I haven't been as impressed with Rashford, if that's good enough to answer your Paul. Scott says we are signing Madison in January. I hope you're right, Scott. I said I would like Madison last transfer window. A lot of people are saying he was overrated because he's English, but for me, I think he's a quality player, an intelligent player, and I think at the weekend for Leicester, he showed his quality. So the next game I'm moving on to is the dreaded one that I don't really want to talk about. But United against Palace. I was at Old Trafford, and beforehand I was there. I was with Flex, Saeed, and a few others, and everyone was really, really positive, saying it's going to be a 4-0, a 3-0 United win. And I said I'm going to be conservative, and I said a 2-1 or a 2-0 win to United. So I still went with United win, but I thought it'd be a much tighter game than people were anticipating. And the reason I said that is because for me, when Zaha turns up, Palace are a different team for one. And obviously, Zaha playing against his old club United, he will want to prove a point, definitely. But then also, Crystal Palace turned up with a plan, and again, it was a frustrating plan. The time wasting, the constant niggling fouls, but that plan worked. And fair play to them, they stuck to their guns, they knew their plan, and it absolutely paid off. On United's front, I'm going to say we looked absolutely clueless going forwards. I think when a team basically puts two banks of four, we struggle to break them down. We are clueless going forwards. We don't have like a phase of play. We don't have a plan, if you like. We don't have a style. Yes, we've got pace in our team, but when there's two banks of four and there's no space in behind them, what's the point in having that? Because we've not got anybody who can run into the channels. So I think it was a really, really frustrating game, and it just highlighted our lack of strength in our squad. It showed how weak our squad is. You turn to the bench, and who realistically would you look at to bring on to change the game? I think Gomez should have been in the squad, but even then, would it be a lot different with Gomez? And I think we should just try and put the youth out there, because obviously people questioning the progress we have made since Ollie took over, because the results have simply not been good enough. I've just seen Paul in the chat. I did promise I'd definitely give you a shout out for your birthday. So happy birthday, Paul. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Obviously, I hope it continues into the evening. So happy birthday to Paul. But yeah, all in all, I mean, one player I want to talk about is Jesse Lingard. I saw a stat in the last 6 years. I think it's been Adam Johnson has had more goals and assists than Jesse Lingard. Now, for three of those years, he has been in prison. That is absolutely atrocious. Lingard is our number 10. Supposedly, he is meant to be our most creative player. Now, on one hand, I'm saying Lingard's movement is good. He gets into positions in between the lines. He's clever, his movement. But when he does get the ball, when the ball is finally through to him, we saw at times of the day he would miscontrol it. And his quality on the ball is simply not good enough. His quality is atrocious when he gets the ball in that number 10 position. Yes, he works hard and he does press, and I get all that. There's things off the ball that Lingard does that are effective. However, if you are a number 10, primarily you should be our main creative threat, if you like. He's not good enough on the ball, which is why I would like to give someone like Gomez a shot in the number 10 position. That stat is absolutely crazy. You can go and check it out. It's on Twitter. Adam Johnson has been in prison for 3 years, but in the last 6 years he's got more goals and assists than Jesse Lingard, who has been playing a lot of games for Manchester United. That just highlights how is this guy staying on the pitch, and how is he still starting for United? Yes, he works hard, like I say, but off the ball, he does an important job. But on the ball, as a number 10, you should be our main creative threat, and he simply isn't. He isn't doing the job on the ball. He isn't playing good enough. Thank you so much, Nippon, for the the super chat, he says, are you doing FIFA 20 videos? I am definitely going to do FIFA 20 videos. I've already got a lot of PSN, obviously, names as well on my Twitter, where I'm going to be playing against some of my subscribers. I'm just working on the logistics of how that's going to work, but I've got all those names on that tweet saved, and I am still doing that where I'll be playing against some of you guys, which should be an interesting series to make, because I'm pretty sure I'll get battered week in, week out, but I'm up for doing it. The Mr. Arsenal podcast, thank you so much. Say smash them likes up, guys. I appreciate it. I will be talking about Arsenal in a minute, don't you worry. Man Like Mo says United should go for Madison. Akar says Lingard isn't a traditional number 10 anyway, but where would you put Lingard then? If he isn't a number 10, where would you say his position is? Because for me, he's a number 10. He's just simply not good enough on the ball. He's off the ball. He's fantastic. But you want someone who's going to be good when you get the ball going forward. So like I say, a few times at the weekend, Pogba would play a fantastic little disguise ball through the lines. He'd get to Jesse Lingard on the edge of the area and he'd miscontrol it or the break. Obviously, it would melt down. It would just melt down. Thank you so much for the super chats coming in, guys. It means a lot. F. Jones says that kit is sick. Thank you so much, F. Jones. Christian Medina, thank you. It says hello from Sacramento, California. Appreciating California. And I hope the weather's like it is in the UK right now because it's absolutely beautiful. Self the best FIFA player in the world. Facts. Roberto, you've seen my streams where I missed from 2 yards out with Rashford. I'm definitely not the best FIFA streamer in the world, but I'm all here for the entertainment and for the fun. I'm just taking part. So taking part what counts. Next game, Sheffield United against Leicester. I said that Leicester had a bit of a slow start to the season, but against Chelsea they were impressive. They were unlucky not to win, and I fully expected them to get the win in this game, and they obviously did that. Madison's quality shone through. Apparently the assist, I haven't seen it, but the assist for Vardy's goal with the outside of his foot was sublime. Thank you so much, Alex, for the super chat. He says, thoughts on Lindelof and Gaya errors. I spoke to Aaron, Mr. Aaron United, who obviously works on the United stand, when we were in Cardiff, and he was picking up Lindelof, and I said, Lindelof on the ball, obviously with the ball on the ground, I think he's a fantastic player. I think he reads the game well, he's obviously quick, he's a good ball player. But when it's in the air, there's still question marks as to how strong he is in the air, Lindelof. And for me, I said he's vulnerable. I think if he comes across a big number 9, which is, I've already mentioned Wesley from Villa, that I'm dreading that competition there. Maguire needs to obviously get on Wesley. But I think as a sweeper, as a ball-playing centre-back, he's very good. But I think with the ball in the air, Lindelof for me is still very, very vulnerable. And I think that showed at the weekend. But one thing I will say, a lot of the blame is being put onto Lindelof. And yes, he should win that first header. I completely agree with that. But Maguire, for me, should have been sweeping around. You taught that at basics, really. From if you're a defender, and obviously you're in a partnership as a two, you're taught that if one goes to win the ball, then the other one sweeps up, and Maguire should have been a lot closer to Lindelof. And I will say the blame isn't solely on him. You can't win every header at the end of the day. And so that's where Maguire should have been a lot more switched on, and he should have been sweeping around. That's why I'm saying I don't solely blame Lindelof. Yes, he should have been better in the air, but I do think genuinely he isn't the strongest in the air, and Maguire should have been more switched on to that. So I do blame both centre-backs for that. Not just Lindelof, but that's my opinion on the error there. De Gea's error, I'll be honest, I haven't really watched it back. I got back on Saturday night. I refused to watch Match of the Day because if we lose, especially the way we played, I don't want to suffer that again. So I simply didn't watch it. I'm a bit like a spoiled brat in that sense, I'll admit it. But I didn't watch it back, but I have heard that he should definitely saved it. There's question marks about De Gea towards the end of last season as well. Let's face it, the only thing he really had to do in that game was pick the ball out to the net twice. It's worrying. It's definitely worrying. I'm hoping it's just I don't know, a slip up. I think he's trying to. A lot of time, De Gea is trying to obviously be cool, trying to catch it when really probably the best thing is to push it away or keep it to safety. I don't know. Maybe he's just trying a bit too hard, De Gea. I don't know what it is. I'm hoping that it's just one of them things. Like I say, I haven't watched it back because I've refused to watch Match of the Day, but I'm not going to get on his back just yet about it. But it is worrying that the only two things he had to do in that game was pick the ball out the back of the net, isn't it? It definitely is. But Ayew's finish, I must say, for the first goal was very, very good finish. And that second goal, I've already commented on it. A lot of people saying, I hate Pogba and all that. I don't hate Pogba at all. I like that Pogba's taking risks. And at the end of the day, we all want to play the United way. And if we're pushing for the win and we end up conceding the loser, that will happen. Of course it will. I just don't like the way that we gave the ball away at the edge of the area. And I still stick to that. I think we should have been better in possession there. We were a bit too complacent. But there was still a long way to go before that goal was conceded. And it's just one of them things. I think if you're pushing for a win, you're going to leave yourself exposed at the end of the day. That's just the way that it's going to happen. So, I still fully support, obviously, De Gea. I still fully support Lindelof. Yes, it was 2 mistakes that cost us for the goal. But creatively, going forwards, we'd never really had any clear-cut chances going forwards. I think we had a lot of the ball. Like I say, 2 banks of 4, we struggled to break teams down, and that's definitely what happened against Palace. But teams will open their eyes up now. They'll see that is the way to play against United. If we're playing against a team like that, we will struggle to break them down. And like I say, lack of strength in the squad, a very, very weak squad. You turn to the bench and you look who's going to bring on and change the game, especially with the likes of Martial now injured, and of course Luke Shaw injured. It's just very, very worrying to think where the goals are going to come from. The Mr. Arsenal podcast says, do you think De Gea is untouchable and is not? So, yeah, you know what? It's a good point. De Gea may be thinking, like, no matter what, I'm not going to be dropped. I am number one. They're not going to drop me because if I do, he's not going to be happy, and there's plenty of big teams who will come in for him. It's a good point. Maybe he's in that kind of complacent mode where he knows he's not going to be dropped regardless. And they do say competition for places is healthy. It's a good point. I'd like to think he's very professional, and that wouldn't be the case. But it is definitely a good point that you make there. Michael says we should have moved for Zaha. Yeah, I think it was on Sky where I saw they were debating about little teams now having more money, more strength in the transfer window. Back in the day, it could be like United could stroll up, sign anyone they want because the smaller teams would need the money. Obviously, that isn't the case anymore. Smaller teams are a lot more reluctant to sell, and they would definitely get a lot more money out of the bigger clubs. So it's a difficult one. Zaha obviously was at United, didn't really make it there, wasn't really given a chance. I don't know if he'd want to come back, if I'm honest. I don't know if he'd want to come back. But, yeah. So, Leicester, that was what I was talking about. Madison, obviously the assist for Vardy's goal. Fantastic, I believe. And all I've seen all weekend is Man United should buy Madison. Man United should buy Madison. I did say last transfer window Madison would be one guy I'd be looking at. I think he's fantastic in the middle. He's very creative, very clever player. Maybe he would be the guy that I would want in our number 10 position. Let me know, United fans in the chat. Leicester, if there's any Leicester fans in the chat, please feel free to chip in as well. Is Madison good enough for United? Is he overhyped because he's English? Because we all know that happens all the time. Young English players get overhyped and they're not all they're made out to be. So I'm really intrigued to see what people will see Madison play a lot more than I do. But from what I have seen of Madison, I think he's absolute quality. Let me know, obviously, what you guys think about him as well. But I did predict that Leicester would get the win. They did get the win. Against Chelsea, I thought they looked like they might get at least... Yeah, I thought they might get at least another 2 goals, to be fair. They missed some really, really simple chances, and they were unlucky not to get the win. So, Danny Brown says, I think Madison is good, but Sancho is overhyped, to be fair. Sancho might be another example of that, but I think he did the right thing moving to Dortmund, getting more game time, proving his worth a bit more over in Germany. Sancho is definitely, time will tell with him. Next season, I'm sure he'll be sought off after in the transfer window massively. And I'll be interested to see if he actually obviously moves with that contract or if he'll stay at Dortmund. I'll be really intrigued. Maybe they'll get a lot of money for him. Young English, like I say, overhyped. It's a really interesting one. Andrew Ellis says, I wish we'd have signed João Felix before Atletico Madrid. João Felix is an absolute baller. A lot of people predict him to win the Ballon d'Or in future. He's definitely some talent, yes. I don't think he'll stay at Atletico for long. I think he'll end up moving somewhere like Barcelona and Real Madrid. But he's definitely a talent. Watford against West Ham. Watford 1, West Ham 3. Both teams really had a slow start to the season. Watford have definitely had the more disappointing start. I said they looked really poor first game of the season. They're still continuing really to look poor. Normally you associate them with being resilient, being hard to break down, and obviously they've got the likes of Deeney, you get goals going forwards. But yeah, I think at the minute Watford are going through a really rough patch. I'm not being impressed with them at all. West Ham, in the end, obviously got the win for it. And West Ham are playing tonight as well, of course, in the Carabao Cup. But I think West Ham is a big win for them away at Watford. Maybe that now will springboard them into a few games where they're going to pick up some points, because both teams for me in that game started off slowly this season. But like I say, Watford are normally the team that are quite hard to break down, and they have got the goal in them with Deeney. So it's really interesting. Mystery is spot on. He says, like, share and sub peeps, hit that bell also, appreciate it. This is a weekly show, every single week, talking about all of the biggest topics, of course. The next one is the key match of the weekend, and of course, it was at Anfield, Liverpool against Arsenal. And now I've said in the video title, LUIZ a liability. LUIZ was obviously at fault. He had a bit of a dodgy game. Arsenal fans in the chat, feel free to join in, and of course, Liverpool fans, feel free to make your comments. Salah, exceptional. Firmino with his little flicks, of course, as usual. Liverpool's front three, when they're at it, they're really at it. And once they get the bit between their teeth, it's hard to keep Liverpool out. And it seemed like that was the way in that game. I think Arsenal had moments, and I predicted that Arsenal would get something at Anfield. I had a niggling feeling. I thought Arsenal going forwards have got a lot of threat about them this season. Lacazette, I think, should start every game. I'll be honest, I actually really rate Lacazette, and I think he should start. Pepe had glimpses, obviously, dribble past Van Dijk, I heard. But LUIZ, does he strengthen Arsenal defensively? Yes, he's a character. He's a big name. But for me, I think he's a bit of a liability. I think he switches off far too much. When he's on form, he's fantastic. But how many games does David LUIZ have where he doesn't switch off at least once? I know he did that against Arsenal. Against Liverpool. Let's see what a few of you guys are saying. The Mr. Arsenal podcast says go easy on us. I always go easy. I'm a very fair person. Ramian says Matip, the unsung hero of the game, had a better game than Van Dijk. Matip and Van Dijk is definitely the best partnership in my opinion. Matip, I think, for Liverpool was an underrated signing. He scored a fantastic header as well. Sully says, I hate Liverpool, but you've got to admire what they're doing. Of course you have. At the end of the day, we're all football fans, and you have to appreciate good football when you see it as much as it. Owen says, I love Liverpool, and I love the way Liverpool are playing at the minute. Alex says, replacing Koscielny with David LUIZ has just made Arsenal look more defensively vulnerable. He's nothing other than a Phil Jones with curly hair. Dugout says, could be wrong, but Lacazette has never started versus Liverpool at Anfield. I wonder why that is, though. I wonder why it is, because obviously Lacazette scored the week before. I think he always looks a goal threat. His link-up play is fantastic. And, yeah, I don't obviously watch Arsenal week in, week out. Maybe I'm missing something here, but every time I see Lacazette play, I think he's definitely fantastic. And he would be a starter for me week in, week out. Why he doesn't, I don't know. Arsenal fans, you can obviously enlighten me with that, but that's for me looking. I would have started Lacazette in that game. Lasry says Arsenal looks like they'll get top 4 this season. Mr. Arsenal podcast says if we was more clinical on Saturday, the result would have been a lot different and we would have got something. Johnny Bay says Matip is better than Lindelof. Ha ha. I'm dreading our game Saturday, so if we've got to get the 3 points, I'm dreading our game. We got to the point now where you used to be able to look at games and think, yeah, that should be an easy win. That'll be a hard game. And the hard games are already, what your top 6, you'd say, were your hard games in the season. Now, every single weekend, I don't recall the last time I didn't say that's going to be a hard game. Because for United, every single weekend now it is going to be a hard game. It is definitely going to be a hard game. There's that one game where I think it's going to be easier. But I think that's credit to the Premier League as well, because you've got teams like Burnley, of course, who are battlers, Wolves, who are on the up, of course. They got very lucky at the weekend, which I'll talk about in a minute. But Roy Cropper says Lacazette is probably our main striker. He's coming back from injury. That makes more sense. If he's been injured, that's fair enough. Ramian says, so do you think there's a large concentration of fans supporting the players rather than the club? Yes, definitely. The amount of comments after my fan cam at the weekend, I was talking about Pogba, of course. No one else mentioned it, but I thought I'm going to do it. Pogba gave the ball away again. I'm not going to be afraid to say it. And I knew exactly what I would get from it. And ignore Luna in the background. But I'm not disrespecting Pogba. Like I say, he was trying to make stuff happen. I get that. I think we're just a bit complacent on the ball sometimes. And I'm not slagging him off. I've just seen that in the comments there. I'm not doing that because he was Pogba. In all fairness, when he looked forward a lot of times as well, our attackers are all stood in an absolute line. They're not moving. He hasn't got much to aim for as well. So I do get that side of the game. Obviously, I play football myself, and I've been a holding midfielder. And sometimes you do take the extra touch because you're looking up and there's not much movement. And I think that's actually what's happened with Pogba there. The only reason I picked up on it is because if it was anyone else, if it was McTominay, for example, somebody would have said, oh, he's average, he gave the ball away for the second goal, and somebody would have mentioned it. Nobody mentioned it, which is why I mentioned it. I wasn't scared of saying about Pogba. People believe then that I've got like a racist agenda against Paul Pogba. The amount of people who protect Pogba is ridiculous. When simply it could have been anybody in that position. You're just simply saying what you see, and that's all I did with Paul Pogba. So yeah, I do think there's a lot of fans who are supporting players more so than the team, definitely. And Pogba is a prime example of that. I think there's a lot of people out there who are Pogba FC rather than Manchester United FC, for example. But each to their own at the end of the day. I'm just focusing on what I see week in, week out. I've already gone in on Lingard, for example, and said about what I think about him, and the stats with Adam Johnson is absolutely embarrassing and he should be dropped. I've already said about Rashford that we don't see consistently, but people pick up on Paul Pogba all the time. But I do agree that Rashford and Lingard get away with it a lot more, and why that is, I have no idea. Is it because they're English? I don't know, but in my eyes, I do not let them get away with it. I just say exactly what I see. Let's see what people are saying in the chat. Fred needs games. Fred was linked with Fiorentina, apparently. Clash Devil, I've already spoken about Lingard. I said that Adam Johnson has had more goals and assists than him in the last 6 years, and he's been in prison for 3 of them. That is absolutely embarrassing. For a number 10 who's meant to be our biggest creative threat, that is simply not good enough, and I have no idea how he's staying in the starting lineup. But I did already say that earlier. If Martial is injured, he will be a massive loss for us. Well, apparently he's out for the Southampton game, so definitely he's a worry. But we're talking about Liverpool and Arsenal right now. Salah obviously took a penalty fantastically, a superb penalty, and LUIZ conceded it. And yeah, so I was just seeing a comment there. If Pogba was English, you wouldn't be slagging him off. Where's Lingard from? Where's Rashford from? Don't put everybody in the same bracket, because that's just not the way it is. Some people just want to comment on the football, and if Pogba is in the conversation, he's in the conversation. Gomez for number 10 says, Michael, there wasn't really anyone on the bench. There wasn't anyone. And a player that I want to talk about as well is Torreira at Arsenal, because we've already mentioned how Lacazette didn't start. Apparently he had an injury, which is fair enough. But what about? So I've just seen Skinner LUIZ and sent him back to Brazil. Salah's second goal, yeah, it was absolute quality. But what about Torreira then? Why is he not starting? Is he unsettled in London? Is he upset? What is it? Because when he's played for Arsenal as well, he's a tough player to have in the middle. He's obviously he's just constantly at people's ankles. He doesn't leave people alone. He works hard. Came on and scored a goal as well. Why didn't he start as well? I'm a bit baffled at that decision as well. I did hear rumours that he wasn't settled in London. It was a lifestyle. It wasn't really suiting him, which, of course, fair enough if Emery's protecting him. But then he brings him on anyway. So why is he not starting as well? Is Sanchez still going to stay until January because of the Martial injury, says Andrew? I read today that it's looking more and more promising that he's going to Inter Milan, so it doesn't seem that way, which may mean that Greenwood comes on. Lucas hasn't been starting because he had a long summer and he's been at Copa America. Fair enough, so he's easing him back in. That's fair enough. So it's not because he's unsettled then, because I was with a few Arsenal fans at the weekend and they were saying that he'd been crying and stuff like that because the lifestyle wasn't suiting him, which I hope isn't the case, because I do think that he definitely gives something to the Premier League. I like Torreira. I think he's a good player to have in the middle. He's definitely a battler. Andrew says, come on, Sophie, but there isn't an anti-agenda towards Pogba than any other player in the United squad. If you talk about it from me, there definitely isn't. Generically, maybe Pogba does get a lot of stick because of the price people paid for him, because of the nature of him as a player. A lot of people are old-fashioned and they don't like the way football is moving and about Pogba's brand and stuff like that. I'm not saying about me. That doesn't bother me, to be honest. I'll just say what I see on the pitch, but that could be the case, definitely. So normally to settle a player, you bring a player who's close with the player. Alisson and Fabinho wanted to move not only for the club, but also due to affiliations with Moreno and Firmino. It's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point. Obviously, if you've got friends already at the club, then that could be the case as well. That's why a lot of people believe Griezmann might become to United, because he's good friends with Pogba. Didn't turn out to be the case, of course. But yeah, I agree that can sometimes obviously twist someone's arm to come to a club. Fair play to Alexis, then. His wage of bill for you, then. Not sure what you mean by that one. Lots of fake news stories around United at the moment, says Jenny Blade. There's always fake news stories around United because it sells papers. A bit like the transfer window, we link to a different player every single day. Sophie, more response to people supporting the players. You can replace these kind of players. Keegan and Dalglish is a perfect example. If Van Dijk left, we can replace them hopefully with Van der Berg. At the end of the day, nobody's bigger than Manchester United Football Club, in my opinion. Nobody will ever be as big as Manchester United Football Club. And if someone isn't fully happy with the team, they should go. And I'll stick to that. Regardless of who the player is, I will always say that. And regardless of a player's nationality, race, anything, I don't care. If somebody isn't playing well, I will comment on that, because that's what I'm here to do. We're here to talk about football. We're here to say what I see. It doesn't really matter who we're talking about, but for some reason, when it is Paul Pogba, people get all defensive, and I'm not sure why. But like I say, I'm not slagging Pogba off. I have already gone in on Lingard and Rashford as well. I hope they all turn up on the weekend and they have absolutely amazing games and they all score hat-tricks each. We win 9-0. Those 3 players scored a hat-trick. I want the best for Manchester United Football Club. And of course, in order for that to happen, we need the best out of our players. And players like Pogba are our world-class players. They are our star players. So we expect more from them. Naturally, that's just what happens. Do you think the ball back to Ollie in the transfer window? Not enough. No, we needed a lot more. I think Ollie knows we needed a lot more as well, and we can prove that. We should have definitely signed a midfielder. We didn't. So, what do you think the best Man United formation, home and away, and why? I think we should have 9 defenders, De Gea in goal, and just one player up front, just to try and stop the other team from scoring, because we're not going to score many goals at the minute. Now, I don't know. I think it's a hard one. I think because we're playing players like Lingard, who for me simply isn't good enough. I would rather replace Lingard with Gomez in the team. I wouldn't put Greenwood onto the right hand side. I felt sorry for Greenwood at the weekend. I thought he was brought on in a game where we were obviously desperate for a goal. He's very young. It's a lot of pressure on his shoulders, and we're expecting to bring him on into a team that wasn't playing well to transform the game. And I think it's a lot of pressure, and I think people are overhyping Greenwood. I've already mentioned about English players being overhyped. I'm not saying I don't think he's good. I think he's quality, but I think it's unfair on him to be brought on the right hand side in a team that wasn't creating much, in a game that realistically wasn't going United's way. We weren't playing well. It's a lot of pressure to put on his shoulders to expect him to come on and change the game. But I do understand that at some point we're going to have to turn to the youth now because of the lack of back in the transfer window. That's going to happen. And of course, United way, we want to see more youth. But at the same time, I think just throwing money in the game out there and expecting just to change the game, it's a lot of pressure. Ollie's subs are garbage, to be honest, says Gaz. I think the timing of the subs are definitely questionable, especially if you look at the Wolves game. Subs were far too late, in my opinion, in that game, definitely. Subs are definitely very questionable, but at the same time, you turn to the bench, as I've already mentioned, and you are thinking, what have we really got to work with here? And it's not a lot. Alex says, what are your thoughts on Bury and Bolton? I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to touch on it. I think it's saddening. I saw, obviously, volunteers at the ground at Bury today helping to clear the place up, knowing that could possibly not be a club by this evening. And I just think it's horrible, horrible football. At the end of the day, a football club for the community, obviously, yeah, it's a small club, but for the community, that'll have so many memories. There'll be families who go to the games every single weekend, for example, have got so many memories at that place. It's what they do. And it's not going to be there anymore. It's just sad to have that privilege taken away. You can only imagine. I mean, I know I'm a Manchester United fan, and people give us stick because we're a massive club and all this, and a lot of people blame United for Bury obviously happening. But I think, imagine one day we wake up and Manchester United isn't there anymore. Like that feeling, this club that we're all talking about, or your teams, for example, the chat Arsenal fans or any other fans. Imagine waking up like one morning and your club not being there anymore. And I just think it's absolutely horrible. And Bolton as well, of course. I just think it's really disheartening. And like I say, you feel a bit helpless because we all love football at the end of the day, regardless of what team it is. You all love football, and to think that a football team, due to money, is just going to be taken away when somebody could invest in that and save it, it's sad. It's really sad. Man City, next one. Man City against Bournemouth. I did watch that game. There was a lot of controversy about VAR in that one. I think Man City should have had a blatant penalty. I tweeted saying VAR doesn't seem to like Man City. But of course, they've still got the quality, the dominance that they have, just to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and think, you know what, we're just going to score anyway. And they literally scored straight after. Aguero obviously banging the goals in as well. Sterling, who I'm so happy I put in my fantasy team, again scoring goals for fun. I think City are quality, and I do think it's looking very much so that it's going to be City and Liverpool competing for the league yet again this season. They just seem a class above the rest. They really do. And I think it's going to be interesting to see this season between those two. But it looks like it's going to be a 2-horse race, definitely. United, at the start of the season, I was feeling optimistic and I was thinking, you know what, top 4 could definitely be on. But after watching it, you've got to question, have we really progressed from last season? So I'm going to say top 6 this season for United. Chelsea are impressing me slightly more than I thought they would, considering the youth that they're turning to. But I think that Chelsea could still get top 4 this season. I genuinely do. But like I say, time will tell before we can make accurate judgments. We could go out and have a worldly window in January. I'm not expecting it, but yeah. Spurs against Newcastle. Just saw someone commenting on Spurs there. Spurs, I genuinely think Spurs should have invested a lot more in the transfer window. Fullbacks are looking very, very weak. Eriksen looks like his head's not fully in it at the minute at Spurs. He could still leave, of course. And Ndombele, good signing, injured again. But I don't know. I think Spurs, have they got enough quality about them to compete for the league this season? No, I don't think they have. And of course, Harry Kane, I think he looked poor at the weekend as well. He didn't score. And they rely a lot on his goals. And if he's not firing, then I am quite concerned about Spurs. I don't think they're going to compete for the season. Maybe top four, but I don't think they'll compete for the league this season. I've also got Harry Kane in my fantasy team as well, so he let me down as well, definitely. But I will comment on Newcastle, because the rumour was Bruce had been told he needed to get something at Spurs, otherwise he was going to lose his job. And we laughed about it on last week's show, and we were saying that that's a bit harsh to say you've got to go to Spurs, new stadium, and get a result. But he did it, in all fairness. Joe Linton obviously scored as well, and I thought Newcastle looked fantastic. They played really, really well. Longstaff played, of course. I thought Dummett at the back was superb. And yeah, I think Newcastle played well. Maybe this will be a turning point in their season now, a bit of confidence to go on. They've scored the first goal of the season. Maybe this now will push them on to get, obviously, more points on the board. From Manchester United to Banchester United to Banchester United, we've become. Tommy Lynn, I completely agree with that, hence the name of the video. Crapchester United, there's a lot of people who obviously slating United. We all feel very aggrieved as United fans. And like I say, I struggle to see where the progression has been since last season. But like I was at the end of the day, I still support the team regardless, as I'm sure you guys will. But it's just very disheartening. A lot of people saying Manchester United got to be patient. Of course we have, but at the same time we don't want to fall further and further behind, because we're miles behind already, and that is a concern as United fans. The result against Newcastle shows why they will not be contenders. Exactly, and Newcastle, they were the better team in that game. I think Spurs were pretty poor. I don't think they had that many chances realistically. I thought Newcastle deserved the win. I genuinely do. Last one. I've just seen someone mention Neves. Wolves obviously was the last game I'm going to talk about. Wolves against Burnley. I already commented on Ashley Barnes last week, and I said that he's banging in goals for fun. He'll continue to. He looks like he's an absolute nightmare to play against. He scored again. I did say that he would. He scored again, and of course Jimenez bagged the penalty in extra time to grab a lucky win for Wolves. That's a lucky win. Sorry, a lucky point for Wolves, should I say, at Molineux. But that game was definitely showing us that Wolves did get very lucky, and it makes me feel even more aggrieved now that we got the same result as Burnley at the Molineux. A lot of people say it's a good point. I see it as we're on par with Burnley at the minute. So yeah, but I'll give my predictions for next week's games. Southampton against, obviously, United is the early kick-off away. I'd like to think we're going to bounce back in this one, but like I say, I don't see any game as being an easy game now for United. And I'm going to go for a draw. A 1-1 draw. United to draw against Southampton. Feel free to join in and give me your predictions as well for the games as I go through them. But Southampton against United, I'm going for a 1-1. Martial isn't playing, which makes me doubt it even more. Of course, I hope that it's an easy win, and I hope we do get the win. But I'm being a bit conservative. After watching us the other day, I fear that if Southampton are going to put two banks at 4, then we'll struggle. And Southampton, to be fair, against Liverpool, they were unlucky as well. Ings missed an absolute sitter. A bit of magic from Mane. So yeah, I'm going to say a draw there. Ramian says 2-2. The one with perfection says 2-2. Andrew's saying that Southampton are going to win. Kevin thinks that United are going to win 5-0. I hope you are right, Kevin. That is the prediction that I'd like to happen. And Naeem says 2-1 to Man United. Chelsea against Sheffield United is the next one. Chelsea at home. Chelsea, I think, will win this one. It's at Stamford Bridge as well. I think a good result at the weekend for them against Norwich. A tough game there away as well. So I'm going to say a 2-0 Chelsea win. Let me know what you guys think. Some people think that Ollie might be sacked. I'm not Ollie out at all. I know a lot of people are, but I'm not Ollie out. We need to give him time. But yeah, I think for that game, I'm going to say Chelsea 2-0 win. Ramian says a 3-0 win. Next one, Palace against Villa. Villa got their first win, but Palace obviously beating us as well will give them massive confidence. But Zaha might think this week, it's not against Man United. I'm not really going to be arsed this week, to be fair. No, I'm going to go with the home team win now. I'm going to say a 2-1 win to Palace. That's my prediction for that one. Villa Palace will be 1-1, says Alex. There's a prediction there, Sheffield United 5, Chelsea 0. I'm hoping that is a sarcastic prediction. If that put a bet on that though, if that comes in, that would be mad odds. Villa to win, being a Brummie, but a United fan. Villa have got a positive result. I think it's going to be a tight one, but I think Palace are going to edge it. Being at Palace as well, decent atmosphere there. So yeah, I'm going to say a 2-1 Palace win. Leicester against Bournemouth. I think Leicester are going to win that game. And again, I'm going to go with 2-1. I think it'll be close, but I think Leicester, being at home, are going to edge it 2-1 win for Leicester. City against Brighton. It's going to be a City win. It's just by how much is what we're going to be saying. Brighton, to be fair, surprised me first game of the season. I think they've looked a lot better than I expected them to. They were one of the favourites to go straight to go down. So I'm going to say 3-0 City. Alex says 5-0 City. Ramian says 3-1. So everyone, the consensus basically is going to be a City win. You watch Brighton win for nowadays, you might be right. Newcastle against Watford. Newcastle got their first win. Watford have not looked very good. We've already said that Watford this season haven't been very impressive. I'm going to go with a draw. It's a Newcastle thing to do. Go and beat Spurs and then draw against Watford. So yeah, I'm going to say a 1-1 draw for that one. 6-0 says Ramian. 5-1 says Appian. Draw defo says Jay Patrick's. I agree with that completely. Yes, I do agree that Lingard should be dropped. I agree with that. Newcastle 2-1 win. Newcastle 3-0 win. That's an interesting prediction. 1-0 to Newcastle. So a lot of people going with the Newcastle vote. West Ham against Norwich. I think Norwich are going to win this one. I'm going to say that I think they're a wild card this season. They haven't really changed from coming up. I think going forward they look fantastic. Obviously Pookie as well, centre forward. So I'm going to say a 2-1 Norwich win. 2-1 Norwich win for that one. And I think Pookie will score again. I think he's going to keep his scoring form up. He's going to fight for that golden boot this season. Next one, Burnley against Liverpool. It's the evening kickoff on Saturday. Burnley are a tough team. This is the kind of game where I think Liverpool will grind out a result, though. I'm going to say a 2-0 Liverpool win in that one. Let's see what you guys are going to say. 2-1 win to Liverpool. Liverpool to win 2-0 to Jay Patrick, so I completely agree with that. I think this is the kind of game where you look at it and think, oh, it could be a difficult one, but Liverpool have got more than enough quality to see it through. If Burnley do score, I do think it'll be Barnes who scores again, because he just seems to score for fun. He's an animal, and I think he'll bag. But yeah, I think it'll be a Liverpool win. I've said 2-0. If Burnley do score, it'll be Barnes. Everton against Wolves at Goodison Park. Wolves got very lucky against Burnley. I think Everton are going to win this one. They're going to get 3 points. And I'm going to say a 2-1 Everton win at Goodison Park. So 2-1 to Everton. And then the last one, of course, is the big one, the North London derby. Arsenal against Spurs. It's at Arsenal. I think Arsenal always seem to do well in the North London derby. You can say Spurs obviously lost against Newcastle. They'll be wanting to bounce back. But I can see this being an Arsenal win. I'm going to say 2-1 to Arsenal. That's my prediction. Let me know what you guys think about that one. But I'm going to go over 2-1 Arsenal win. 2-2 draw there is the prediction. From Alex, but I think it'll be a tight one. It always is really in the North London derby, but Arsenal always seem to edge it, and I'm going to go for that as well this season. 4-1 Arsenal prediction, 2-1 Spurs, 2-2, and Spurs will win the derby. So very mixed opinion on that North London one, but I'm looking forward. That should be a fantastic game, definitely. Where will we end up this season? South says Blocklive. I think if we don't sign anyone in January, top 6 is what I've predicted. Same as last season. I can't really see much progression. Teams will know how to play against us. They'll have 2 banks of 4. We struggle to break them down. It'll be like it was last weekend. Going forwards, I don't think we look good enough. And I do worry about where the goals are going to come from, especially with injuries. Martial, for example, later against Southampton. We need to see if Ollie is going to turn to the youth. And, of course, transfers in January will obviously change accordingly, my predictions as well. Spurs just lost to Newcastle at home. There's no way they'll be beating Arsenal. You could also say, Blackjack, that they'll bounce back from that as well, from that loss at Newcastle. That might spur them on. Spur them on. But who knows? Who knows? Right, guys, please make sure you drop a like on the video. Drop a comment as well. If I haven't managed to answer in the chat, like I say, always drop a comment on the video and I'll respond to that. I do appreciate you all tuning in. Appreciate your support. If you haven't already, please do hit that sub button. I do appreciate it. I hope you have a lovely evening. I'll be back at the weekend giving a preview for the Southampton game. Hoping for a positive result, definitely. But thank you so much for tuning in. I do appreciate it. Like I said, I feel so sorry for Bury and Bolton. We're all football fans at the end of the day, and we all want football to continue, regardless of the team or the league. So it's very, very saddening. We all support our teams, obviously, through and through. And yeah, we just condolences to those clubs. If it is true that they're definitely not going to be around anymore, I think that's very, very sad. And it makes you appreciate your team even more, I think so. So yeah, have a good evening. If you are watching West Ham, enjoy. Hopefully it'll be a good game. Take care. Cheers.